You're good.
All right. All good.
Okay. All right, Mike. Well, man, I appreciate you doing this with me today.
Absolutely.
Let people know I'm just outside of Seattle, Washington. Where are you located right now?
I'm in Kansas City.
Okay. Born and raised?
No, actually, I was born in Idaho. And we moved around a little bit. My dad went to med school at 36 years old.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
so moved to Kirksville, Missouri for a year, then moved to Omaha for three when he transferred to Creighton's Medical School. And then he did his residency down here in Kansas City. And so moved here during actually the floods of 93, if you remember those, that
Mm-mm.
ravaged the Midwest. So we moved down right as that was going on and been here pretty much ever since. Lived in California for a little bit, for about 9, 10 months after law school, and then came back.
Okay. And so was that always aspirations to be a lawyer? What was the draw there?
Yeah, so always wanted to be a lawyer. A couple of my family members were, but particularly my uncle was my dad's one of eight, and so one of the middle kids um, was a lawyer first, and then a couple of the other kids decided they were going to go to law school after he did. But always kind of really like history. I really like kind of the idea of being able to try to sell ideas and different things. So my undergrad was in PR, and then I went to law school, and then politics ended up being kind of the melding of the two.
What type of law did you go to school for?
So I didn't really go for anything in particular when I first started. What I really liked was contract law. I always wanted to be like a sports and entertainment agent.
Okay.
And that never really panned out, but contract law I really liked a lot. And so um, never really ended up liking the actual practice of law. I liked the theory of law,
Mm.
which went a lot with history and different things of that. And then the application of law kind of every day rather than say in a legal setting. So that led me to like the legislative side and crafting policy so that then lawyers can fight about it later. But being on the front end of it, I really liked.
Just tell me whether or not this is true. I'm not a lawyer, but I've had a couple friends tangentially in that area, and they kind of summarize this. Maybe it's a fair characterization or an unfair characterization. They're like, if you go to law school, it will give you the opportunity to go to a law firm, um, work 60 hours a week to hopefully make partner one day so you can work 80 hours a week.
Yeah, and then hopefully you get older and then you can pass that off to people that want to work 60 hours to 80 hours a week and just make money off of the clients you already have.
It's just a grind, huh?
Yeah, and that I mean it's an interesting for the lifers in law firms, it's very interesting. Like I practiced with a guy who was 84 years old and he was still coming in every
Whoa.
day. And he was still like taking on big clients and different things. But some of them just it feeds them so much they just can't give it up.
Mm,
And that's not anything I necessarily wanted to do, but it was more I think the speed of things and some of the other aspects of just the legal practice. Um, I like the legislative side easier because it's a lot more fluid and a lot more kind of just it's a lot of your day to day is unknown because you can have somebody propose some sort of crazy idea. You can have something come down from either the federal level or a regulatory agency that impacts your clients and figuring out like how they would navigate those types of things. Really like you can be impacted, particularly on it's always interesting with municipal government. You know, people really don't pay attention to their local elected officials, but on a day-to-day basis, those people have the most impact on their lives.
mm.
And um, so you can have stuff that happens at the civic level that can start and finish in a period of like 4 or 5 weeks. And
Sure, right.
and so if people aren't paying attention, it makes a big difference to them. Where at the federal level, it takes it's a lot longer and a lot slower. And even at the state level, it's in between. But you can you can have things happen that move pretty quickly, and you have to really ramp up quick. And that's part of the thing that I like.
And so what was the transition or bridge from law to politics? And then which of those two ponds is your full-time gig right now, or do you dabble a bit in both?
So the transition from law to politics was actually I had some friends that worked for Gray Davis when in 2002, and I was out there after law school trying to become an agent or just do some sort of sports and entertainment law, and had been interviewing with a couple folks. And in the meantime, they were out on that campaign for his reelection for governor, and we had a bunch of folks that I was friends with that I knew out there, and they said, "Well, you should come out and start doing some stuff." And I'd volunteered on campaigns while I was in law school, including the presidential in 2000, and obviously that was a very interesting election to go through while you're in law school, um, with all of the hanging chads and everything was going on in
Mm,
Florida.
I haven't heard that term in a while, the hanging chad, right?
and and so and so then moving from that into then volunteering on the actual campaign side and talking to voters every day and talking to these other just constituency groups and different things like that was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of really good memories from it. And it's a grind, and then you don't get paid very much at all, but it was a lot of fun. So then when I came back, um, I was then I went to work at a law firm, and they were pretty involved in politics. And one of the two partners ended up becoming the state auditor in Missouri. But at that time, it was just well, this is really interesting to me. I can do a little bit of both because they're a very political law firm, and I'm practicing
Mm.
law so I can feed myself. And then it just kind of started to as she became more involved on the political side and wanting to run for statewide office, then I had transitioned over. And in the meantime, before I had gotten to that law firm, I ended up working for the Kerry campaign in '04. And that's actually how I met them.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I guess you've been a crawl, walk, run sort of a deal from volunteering to getting a little bit more involved, to the law firms involved, to, it just stays there. And then what was the initial job or opening or catalyst that kind of broke you into politics? And then I guess as a civilian from the outside looking in, for lack of a more sophisticated way to ask the question, which there probably is one, what was the draw? Because from the outside looking in, I don't care whether you're red, blue, or purple, man, it seems like just a stressful guerrilla warfare of just chaos. It's probably going to age you 20 years, and it just seems so chaotic and stressful that it's challenging as an outside observer to be like, yeah, let's dive right in. It sounds good. So I mean,
Yeah.
what's the appeal there?
So so the catalyst for getting in is in 2006, I was in a state representative seat that was opening because in Missouri they have term limits of 8 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate. So you can just serve 8 years total and then you're done.
Okay.
Um, Initially, it was passed to try to say, well, representatives get too close with special interests and lobbyists, and so they'll do whatever. But it ends up being that the only institutional knowledge in the building are lobbyists and staff. So it's
Mm,
unelected folks who are the institutional knowledge, whereas the lawmakers are not the institutional knowledge. So it's actually kind of borne out as you may have had this idea, but it turned into a completely different aspect. Um, so when that seat opened, my friend was going to run for it. Um, he decided that it wasn't the right time for him, and asked me if I'd be interested in running. And so I thought about it and looked around at who else was possibly running in that race, and decided that I would rather take the chance at going and doing it, and even if I lost, it would be better than just handing it over to one of the other folks that were going to be running. And so then I ran and I won. Um, and
How
then
was that
it
feeling?
was it was great and it was a lot of fun. And it was great to be there with folks that I had in my camp from day one, my brothers, and then my family, and then also folks that I met on the campaign trail and folks that I knew um, from years ago when they saw it on the news they called, and it was a really interesting time,
I
and it was
bet.
slow. It wasn't like with all of these like really sophisticated electronic reporting that we have now. I mean, this was 2006, so we were just coming out of using paper ballots completely.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And so when you were elected that position, what was your official title?
So state representative in Missouri.
Okay. And as a state representative in Missouri, if somebody was to look that up, what would it detail as your duties and responsibilities?
So it is obviously we have bicameral forms of government in all but one state.
I was going to say, don't for one second assume that myself or any other American has any clue how any branch of government works at
Yes.
all.
So two chambers, you have the House and you have the Senate. House in most state governments is 2 years, Senate is four. Um, and in the state house, we would you're one of 163 in the state of Missouri. And so you represent a certain geographical area that is defined by population, and they draw boundaries around it. And we would go from there to Jefferson City, Missouri. And you are essentially like what the House of Representatives is, Congress is at the national level. It's just a smaller, it's just on the state level.
Okay. And so, I mean, what was your day to day like, your position versus like the mayor or the governor? Like, are you worried about roads, economy, school, infrastructure, housing, taxes? Like what's on
Yes,
the docket?
all
Because
of it,
I mean,
all of it.
where do you start?
So that's the thing is you come in as you may have a subject matter expertise in one or two areas, but you're all generalists when you walk in the
Mm.
building because nobody can be well versed in all of them. And so you try to put people in the right positions when and I ended up being the minority leader in the Missouri House. So that's the party that's not in power is the minority party. And so I had to end up putting people on committees that were uh, geared towards certain types of subject matter expertise. They had passions for certain things. Their districts dictated that they really needed to take a lead on certain aspects. And so you try to find people that, if you're doing it right, you're trying to find people that you put into those committees that add something to the policy process
Mm.
and that can articulate and prosecute arguments and bring up ideas and really flesh out the details of what goes into making good policy.
Well, I'm I'm very curious about that, and maybe since you've been behind the curtain a bit, you can give a sense of maybe what you've experienced, or I have to think if there's something political going on in the world, or you're watching it on online TV, on X or wherever, you probably look at it through a different lens as somebody else because you've experienced it to some degree. But like as a regular civilian watching whatever politics crosses my way, an honest, like regardless of party lines, it seems to me from an outsider looking in, it must be so difficult to get something going on because it almost seems like I don't know if people are indoctrinated or told that they have to do this way, but it's almost like everybody just votes on party lines. Like you're not allowed to say that the other camp has any good ideas on any subject in the entire world. They're all idiots. They're all the reason the world's in flames. We got all the good ideas, and you just vote along party lines. It's not actually, from what I can see, the actual good of the people. Like the other party, regardless of side you're on, might have a good idea from now and
Mhm.
then, and both parties should get on board. Like, does that, it seems from the outside looking in that it's just this theatrical production of drama and sound bites where the politicians that are, have followings are like pumping themselves up and very rarely being like, hey, I'm gonna take a back seat to what's like in the best interest of my constituents, what's in the best interest of my community, and put that at the forefront and let that guide my decisions. That's from the outside looking in. You've been
Yeah.
on the inside. I'm just curious to hear, is that ring true? Is that far off base? What's the deal?
So I can't remember who actually said it, but it was somebody. Now that I've moved over to the government relations side of things, I was at a dinner and he got up and said, I always try to explain to my clients, people want their government to be the West Wing. They
Mm-hmm.
fear that it is House of Cards, but in reality, it's Veep. And if
Mm.
you haven't
I haven't
seen
seen
Veep,
that one, by the way.
great show. It is a fantastic show. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, phenomenal show. But it is a very good take on people trying. There's like a lot of people that have ideas and try and do the right things. Again, they're generalists. Like the level of, hey, we're going to try this. It may not work, and throwing stuff out and kind of the chaos of the day. There
Yeah,
is a lot more to that true to life inside behind the curtain than you would see on broadcast news or something like that.
gotcha.
So as far as your question about the chaos, social media has made it harder. So
Mm.
I was leaving the legislature at the time that social media was really starting to take off, particularly Twitter.
Good
Um,
timing, man.
oh God,
Good
it
timing.
was impeccably nice because I think social media has done more to ruin politics and ruin how policy is made in this country than probably any single thing. Because even at the height of like Clinton and Newt Gingrich fighting all the time, they still talked like 3 times a week.
Mm.
And some of my best friends in the legislature were Republicans and in leadership on the Republican side, and they were the majority party, and they still are in Missouri. And I was able to work really well with them, and I had genuine friendships that to this day, some of them I still talk to every day. Um, and
But
you
I think
do
that's how
have
it's supposed to be, right?
exactly, and you used to see this. There used to be a scale, and they still do it, but it really isn't a scale anymore. But it is how many times X party, so Democrat, Republican, would vote with the other one in the US Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be, you would see people that would vote, that you'd have Democrats that voted with Republicans more than people in their own party. And then some that would vote with Republicans more than Republicans would vote with their own party, or Republicans would vote with Democrats more than they voted with the Republicans. That now has become a very small crossover. And I think
Mm.
part of it is we've gotten more tribal as a society
Mm-hmm. Seems
on
that way.
us and them. And it is, and you look at history and how some of this unfolds, it does get to be like this at different points in different forms of government. Um, I think again, social media has made it instantaneous to where everybody you get into these echo chambers, or you get into
Mm-hmm.
you're being able to select what news you see. And I think that has been very difficult to break through for folks. But in reality, there is a lot of stuff that gets done in bipartisan nature, and there's a lot more crosstalk between parties in chambers. Um, than I think people understand. It's just on the big stuff and the things that they see all the time. It doesn't necessarily look that way. And unfortunately, some of that good work just gets bottled up because of all the other infighting.
Yeah.
Uh, but you can look at, like, we've done some really big, the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, some of these other things that have passed just federally where it's the nastiest, um, that have been really bipartisan led, well put together. And when you have more voices in the discussion, policy gets better just on its own.
Oh, 100%.
Much more perspective.
That should be like I don't care what party you're in, but those are the people I would want on both parties. Like
Yeah.
if everyone thinks the same on one or the other, I'm nervous. Like I like you get to hear different points of view, and you actually have to be willing to listen, not to just be combative, wait for your turn to speak and try to change their mind. Like actually listen and be open to the fact that the other person has the potential of being right, just hear it. And then collectively, like hopefully those different opinions come together for whatever is the best, but you have to flesh it out first. And if you're not allowed to flesh it out because you're not even willing to listen to the other side because they're the quote unquote enemy, I just don't see that being good for for the people that are supposed to be
Yeah,
benefiting from, the leaders moving forward. And what's funny is, you know, I have an interesting job in the fact like I love what we're doing right now. I get to talk to so many different people from all over the world, like not just all over the country, like all over the world. And when you talk to that many people, we're not all getting along. Like if we actually have a conversation about some topics, you're going to find a ton of disagreement. But I've I've always been able to have an actual conversation with somebody when it's just person to person. It looks so different online. It looks so different on the internet. But all that craziness that I see on the internet, I don't often see when I'm sitting across from somebody having a cup of coffee and we might wildly disagree on a topic. We actually have a conversation about it. So I'm kind of I'm kind of happy to hear that you're saying that in the actual chamber or whatnot, there seems to be meaningful conversations taking place that maybe we're just not witnessing in the general audience out in civilization.
yeah. And again, like I said, it may not end up actually getting to the point of voting on that legislation, but the fact that people can talk to each other and do some stuff. And at the federal level, it's become more and more chaotic. And there's been a lot more vitriol. But at state levels, you really do see, and at local levels, you do see more of that, than even at the federal level that people don't necessarily ever see anybody on the 24-hour news channels that are basically set up for nothing but food fight and about 10
Oh
minutes of news
man,
a day. And even the news shows now are becoming they post them as news, and they're really not even, they're just
they're
these.
not news.
Yeah, they're crossfire all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, as somebody who's been around media a fair amount of my life, there's all those little sayings that exist for a reason, like if it bleeds, it leads,
mhm.
I mean, negativity gets more clicks than positivity, negative headline gets more viewer, like it is what it is. I mean, if you actually just clicked on the news channel, and obviously good things happen every day, and for 30 minutes you just talked about the good things that occurred around the world, and the other channel talked about all hell breaking loose, that other channel is going to get all the views. And
Yeah.
so that the channel reporting the good news is going to go bankrupt and die.
Well, and it's just like people complain about they hate negative campaigns and they hate all this stuff, and it's just so nasty. But then when you ask them why they voted the way that they did, usually they will quote back to you something from a negative ad.
Man, it's wild. Okay, so what occupies your time right now? Are you in law? Are you in politics? Are you retired? Are you doing something else?
So I'm no longer in elected office, but I still work in the political realm. I do government relations, so I'm the political director for the Kansas City Building Trades, which is the construction trades. And then so if you think of like pipe fitters, IBEW, different folks like that, the plumbers, they're all our members. So do political advising for them, and then I also will represent a couple of nonprofits and a couple folks, at the local level and at the state level on certain things that they're trying to do, with respect to what they're going, or what they've had going. And then I also do a little bit of federal.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
all three levels.
Interesting. And of all the things that you dabbled in, do you have a favorite?
It's a lot of it is how you can start putting people in better spots, and you know with things like infrastructure. It creates jobs, it creates opportunities for folks, but it also makes roads safer. Kids have sidewalks to walk on to school, they have playgrounds, they have parks. Your city is improving, your state's improving. So the how people's day-to-day lives can be impacted by, whether it be private investment, public investment, for the different things that really need to be built to continue to advance. That I really like because it's also problems because you're looking at space permitting, you're looking at how traffic flows work, you're looking at where it is in relation to businesses, entertainment, food, hospitals, all that kind of stuff.
Do you ever have to deal with angry citizens?
I do not anymore. Occasionally, I did, and and when I was in the legislature, obviously you had the American healthcare revitaliz or revamping under Obama, and so there were the Tea Party wave was fast and furious, and we got oh, I had a lot of people coming into my office, but no, I think occasionally I'll get people that are upset with something and I'll be at a forum or things like that, but it's rare.
As somebody who's represented the state for so long, maybe somebody is interested in Kansas City. For a second, sell me on Kansas City. Why is Kansas City great?
Kansas City is really a hidden gem. Um, we have professional sports teams, we have great food, we have all kinds of different parks and different places to go. The issue Kansas City has is it's split between two states. So
Mm,
you have half the population on the Kansas side, half the population on the Missouri side, and for a really long time it was one was a kind of a bedroom community and a suburb, and one was the economic engine. That has now completely become uh, homogenized into they're both economic engines, and so
mm.
you have different aspects that people don't necessarily see the the city itself. It's more of a region, and so you have competing interests because you have two different state governments. Like you can cross the street and you have a completely.
Interesting.
It's not just a different city. You are in a completely different state, and it's
Huh.
literally a 2 to 4 lane street that you can cross.
That is unique.
Yes, very. And to have the population totals on either side. So you'll see some where it's, a very small chunk of the city is across a state line on, various different points, but nothing like the population of this Kansas City metro region. But it really is a great place. And it while the summers are brutal because it's not only really hot, but it's really humid and also not a lot of wind, except for at night when you don't want to have wind go.
Right.
Um, but outside of that, it really isn't. You got a lot of kind of open space, and um, you don't have to travel too far to get to different things that you want to do. But it's been a fun place. I've lived, like I said, I've lived here since 1993.
Very cool. All right. Well, final question for that you get back on with your day. What you said you've dabbled and yo-yoed with a bunch of athletic stuff over the course of your life. What brought you to Linchpin and why do you stick around?
So yeah, I tried all kinds of different things from grabbing stuff out of Men's Health to basically everybody kind of from that 90s time frame in the early 2000s, and then tried videos, tried different things. And the one thing during COVID, uh, obviously everybody was kind of inside and there wasn't much to do. I started watching the documentaries, and
Mm.
you were always the highlight of all the documentaries. Um,
I'm glad you
and
enjoy
I
it.
always remember I mean, you don't want him to get hurt, but you want to see him fall on the bikes. And
100%.
absolutely. But things like that always stuck with me. And so then when I saw this come across, I was like, oh, well, I'll give it a shot. And had just kind of been looking up because this was like, how did you fit into everything and some of that. And then I saw that this is what you were doing. And so I looked at it and I was like, well, you got a free trial. I'll go ahead and try it. And it has been the only thing that I have stuck with in my entire life as far as fitness, as far as like fitness programs other than I play baseball, I'll play soccer, I'll do stuff like that. But the fun thing is I picked up soccer at 40 years old,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
yeah, and I played indoor soccer, and I have been in better shape than these guys because I play on this over 30 team and I'm 47. So, I've been playing with these guys, and I had one of the guys who's like 32 years old and runs like a deer and everything. And he goes, "Man, you are really fit." And I thought, okay, this is really good. And
That's what you want to hear.
yes, exactly. And it was the beauty of it is the what you have set up and how you do things. One, I, two kids and different things, and it just makes it much more difficult to get through your workout, your day scheduling.
Indeed.
And I can pick something up and I can do something relatively quick. I travel, you have all the different options. And so it's always been manageable. And even when I got hurt, it was easy to come back to. And even when certain things happen, it's easy to come back to.
Nice.
And so it's been awesome.
Man, well, very cool. Yeah, we get again doing these Linchpin member interviews is some of the most fun that I have. Getting to talk to everybody who's got a different story, a different background, a different fitness journey. It's so awesome just getting to hear everybody's different takes and perspectives. And I mean, all of that's what makes, in my opinion anyway, the community so cool. So, Mike, genuinely appreciate your time, appreciate you sharing your background with us, and thank you for being a part of Linchpin.
Likewise, thank you for doing this.
Enjoy the rest of your day, man. And hey, I make my way out to Kansas City, I'll let you know.
Yeah, definitely.